The Fox 61 News at 6 starts now.
The big thing is going to be the safety of the crews, and we're balancing, do we want to work through the night to kind of get ahead of the snowstorm, or do we want to pause? And we're also looking at making sure that the crews have adequate time to have breaks and rest and things like that.
And you just heard it there. One of the top points following yesterday's train derailment in Mansfield centers around the safety of neighbors and workers. Right now, a shelter in place is still in effect for people who live within a half a mile of Stafford Road. And crews are now continuing recovery and restoration efforts along the Willimantic River. Thank you so much for watching the Fox 61 News at 6. I'm Annette Montgomery. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules is live in Mansfield now with the latest updates from officials as more heavy equipment is now moving in to clean up the area. Alicia.
Annette, during a press conference earlier today, the Mansfield fire chief said they are actively metering the area to make sure there aren't any gas leaks.
We're still getting zero readings on all of our meters.
John Roach, the Mansfield fire chief, says the product they were most concerned about was propane.
Propane doesn't mix with water, so it's not like it's going to bleed or get absorbed by the water. It'll bubble right up and out.
For some of the cars in the river, only one end is actually in the water, so crews will be able to grab them from the other end and lift them out. Chief Roach says the crews have been able to separate some train cars and get them upright.
The river in that area is probably 6 or 7 feet deep. The cars are much bigger than that, so they're not like fully submerged in the river.
They are using cranes, excavators, and bulldozers to move the train cars. They also put booms across the river just as a precaution to catch any possible grease or oil that comes off the rail cars. Brian McLean of New England Central Railroad says the cause of the derailment is still under investigation.
Until all the cars are picked up, it's going to be an active investigation, just until we can see all the tracks, see all the cars, and get a better look at everything and assess everything.
For people who live nearby, they feel very relieved the derailment was not worse. Barbara Evans lives in Coventry near Eagleville Lake. She says people often kayak near the site of the derailment.
We're just fortunate that that didn't happen in summer.
She's thankful no one was hurt.
It could have been a disaster if a group was coming by at that time.
The cleanup efforts are expected to take at least a few days. Crews are bringing in a lot of heavy machinery and are asking people to avoid the area of 1090 Stafford Road. Live in Mansfield, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
Thank you, Alicia. And continuing coverage on this derailment, now to a story you'll only see on Fox 61. Among the dozens of first responders to be called to yesterday's train derailment in Mansfield were crews with the Yukon Fire Department. The store's campus is just one of a handful of universities across the country to host its own professionally staffed department. Fox 61's Aaron Coogan spoke exclusively with the unit's chief and shares Yukon's role in the massive response.
Well, guys, it was an all-hands-on-deck effort across the board, and it's public safety emergencies like this that Yukon Fire Chief Chris Renshaw says his department is ready and prepped for.
We responded a little after 9. I left the scene just before 1 o'clock last night, and then was back on duty this morning at 0600.
Like so many first responders, it was no rest for Yukon Fire Chief Chris Renshaw following the deployment of 11 campus crew members to the early morning train derailment in Mansfield.
A unique circumstance on our behalf. Our monthly senior leadership meeting where all the captains come in happened to be yesterday morning, so it was all hands on deck with more staff than we would normally be able to contribute.
The Yukon Firehouse just 2 miles from where 13 train cars uncoupled on tracks along Stafford Road. 10 cars derailed, some of which toppled into the Willimantic River. The greatest concerns being treacherous conditions just to get to the track.
A remote access through a cornfield that wasn't plowed.
And the imminent risk of a serious chemical spill, considering 6 of the derailed cars were carrying liquefied propane gas.
There was no plume or anything visual to suggest that there's an escaping vapor or gas, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we don't get the luxury of seeing those things when there is a leak. The cars tipped over in the water could mean that there is a leaking component that is in the waterway and under the ice and invisible to us.
And while an extraordinary incident to respond to, he admits it's all part of the job, debunking any confusion that Yukon public safety crews are solely utilized on campus.
The University of Connecticut Fire Department is uniquely positioned where all of our firefighters are trained at the hazardous materials technician level of certification and qualification. That means every firefighter knows what to do at the highest level of education for hazardous material response. Given that Yukon has nearly 1,000 laboratories, we get a lot of experience with that, and we're happy to apply that out into the real world to support our mutual mutual aid companies.
Meanwhile, Chief Renshaw says there are still Yukon crews at the scene assisting where needed, and the rest of the department is on call provided anything changes. In stores, Aaron Coogan, Fox 61.
And as this story develops and we learn new information, stay with Fox 61 on air and on Fox 61 Plus. We'll continue to bring you the latest visuals from Mansfield and an update on the cleanup progress.
I hope everybody enjoyed this afternoon because temperatures got into the upper 20s and near 30, and here we are, still pretty mild considering what we're going to expect. Look what's popped up all of a sudden, getting a couple of snow flurries starting to develop right over northeastern Connecticut. And this would be the area that would get the most snow, by the way, between now and Saturday morning. But it's this Arctic front, and it has quite a big area of snow showers and light snow. And what's going to happen is this cold front is going to move over the region. It's going to try to merge, a little area of low pressure trying to develop off to the south. But it will not merge into a big storm, but we can wake up with some snow blowing around. Tonight, snow develops after midnight, lows down into the teens, and those winds will start to pick up tomorrow, 25 to 30 miles per hour. So we start out in the 20s, dropping down into the single digits by tomorrow evening. So we get that extreme cold warning, as low as 30 below. Coming up, I'll talk about this more. How cold will it get Saturday night and what you can expect in the next week. Details coming up in a few minutes. And that.
Thank you, Sam. And speaking of that weather, the city of Hartford is preparing for the upcoming snowfall this weekend by instituting a parking ban. They're also encouraging people to stay off the roads and out of the cold as much as they can. Hartford Mayor Arunan Arulampalam and Director of Public Works Chris Hayes went into detail about the city's snow cleanup efforts. Fox 61's Jamel Johnson tells us what people in Hartford can expect over the next few days.
The city says the upcoming snowfall is minor compared to the one that Connecticut saw almost 2 weeks ago. Still, they aren't taking any chances. They are enforcing a parking ban along with other preparations to make sure the roads remain as clear as possible. Hartford streets are busy as normal. But when the snow starts falling, Hartford Mayor Arunan Arulampalam hopes it's a different story.
With many of those streets getting tighter anyways, it would be hard with cars on the street just to get plows down, just to get salt trucks down. So we need those cars to be off the streets to get the plows down. The mayor and the city are enforcing a parking ban from 10 p.m. Friday to 10 a.m. tomorrow. Mayor Arulampalam says the blue light lots will be open for people still needing to drive in the city. The mayor says the expected level of snow doesn't normally warrant a parking ban, but because of the last major snowstorm, he feels it's necessary to help keep roads clear. Hartford was hit along with everyone else. The truth is, with cars back on the road, it has been hard to dig out of a number of our neighborhood streets, and a number of our neighborhood residents have felt it. And we appreciate your patience, we appreciate your support, but we view this as a real opportunity to try to make things better all across the city of Hartford. So far, the Department of Public Works says they have removed almost 40 million pounds of snow from Hartford streets, with a large portion going to a storage location off-site. Director of Public Works Chris Hayes says he doesn't expect to need that large of an operation this weekend.
Tonight's effort won't be hauling snow. It will be really just trying to push the banks back on the secondary roads, as well as keep the city fully open for the 1 to 3 inches we expect to fall. We expect this snow to stick around for a while, so every foot we can get back to our secondary roadways is a huge gain for us. Governor Ned Lamont has extended the cold weather protocol through February 10th. Mayor Arulampalam says anyone that needs shelter this weekend will be able to find some. And we're also proactively going out to make sure there aren't folks under underpasses and bus shelters in places where we may not be able to see with the human eye. We want to make sure that wherever they are around the city that they're able to get to shelter here in the city. Hayes says the city can expect about 30 trucks working overnight to help battle the snowfall, and then an additional 50 people coming in on Saturday to help with snow removal. This is the typical team they use for 1 to 3 inches of snow in the city. In Hartford, Jamel Johnson, Fox 61.
Thanks so much, Jamel. Well, right now we have breaking news out of Waterbury, where a man is in critical condition after he was stabbed earlier today. Take a look at the scene here. Police say he was found with stab wounds on Wood Street just before 1 this afternoon, and officers transported him to the hospital. At this time, very limited details have been released. We're still working to learn if police have a suspect in custody and what led up to that stabbing. Well, we have obtained the summary and arrest warrant in the case of Donald Robinson. That's the Waterbury police sergeant arrested and charged with interfering with an investigation. Fox 61's Stephen Reels has gone over the new documents we got this afternoon and joins us now in studio with those new developments. Stephen.
Yeah, and a very interesting case we got here. So up until now, we knew that Robinson was arrested yesterday morning and charged with interfering in an investigation, like you said, as well as computer crimes. He has since been released with the promise that he appears in court. And in the meantime, Robinson is on administrative leave while an internal affairs investigation is underway at the Waterbury Police Department. In the affidavit, we did learn that this all stemmed from an investigation by state police into a computer crime violation on December 11th last year. The current Waterbury PD captain got a call from a retired sergeant who had said he was being stalked and harassed by someone named Dominic Davino. Davino was said to have filed a complaint with the Waterbury department about a comment that was made against him by that retired sergeant on a podcast. Information around this was not supposed to be shared with people outside law enforcement, including that same retired sergeant. However, the retired sergeant told investigators Robinson had texted him the confidential information and that the retired sergeant was suspect of being investigated. Police confirmed these text messages traced to Robinson, who then asked to speak with Robinson. Robinson hired an attorney who said he would not meet with authorities and did not provide a statement. However, based on their evidence, authorities said they had enough evidence to arrest Robinson anyways, and yesterday morning, Robinson turned himself in. Now, Robinson is expected to be in Waterbury Superior Court on the 17th, and I did get the chance to speak with Waterbury Mayor Paul Pernaruski after the news broke from this comment on the case. However, he told me that he is unable to speak on this at this time due to it being an ongoing investigation. Annette?